What would you do if something unexplainable happened on a late-night train? These true stories might make you think twice about ever riding alone again. Welcome to Mr. Darkveil. Tonight, we're diving into 3 real-life encounters on trains. Stories of whispers, shadows, and unseen eyes that left the passengers forever changed. If you enjoy true horror, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single chilling tale. And if you've had your own creepy commute, share it in the comments below. Now, all aboard. Story 1. I've always loved taking the train. There's something about the motion, the predictable rhythm, the passing blur of lights and concrete, the soft clack of steel on steel that quiets the mind. You can just sit and drift, eyes half closed, people watching or disappearing into your own head. But now, when I step onto a train, I feel dread because of one night, one moment, one seat across from me. This happened last October. I had taken the late Metro North train back from a day trip to New Haven. It was a quiet Sunday night, and by the time I boarded, the Grand Central platform was mostly empty. The train was nearly silent, just the occasional shuffling of shoes and the rustle of coats as people settled in. I chose a 2-seater near the rear of the second car. No one else sat nearby, which suited me fine. I had a book in my bag, but I didn't feel like reading. I just leaned back, watched the dark tunnels slip by, and let the silence wrap around me. About 10 minutes in, the train slowed slightly. I glanced up and saw someone sitting across from me. I hadn't seen or heard anyone sit down, but there he was, a man. He sat perfectly still, head turned just slightly toward the window, dressed in dark clothes I couldn't make out. His face, his hood cast a long shadow over his features, but what struck me was how completely motionless he was. He wasn't scrolling through his phone. He wasn't shifting in his seat. He wasn't blinking. He was just sitting. I felt the first prickle of discomfort. I turned back to the window, trying not to stare. But the reflection showed him more clearly than real life, a dark shape, faint and flickering like a shadow that didn't belong. Then I blinked, and he was gone. I turned sharply. The seat across from me was empty, no sign of movement, no lingering warmth on the seat, no creak of the cushion. I rubbed my eyes. Had I imagined him? I didn't think so. I could still feel him, but maybe I was tired. I told myself I must have dozed off briefly and dreamt him. Or maybe the lights flickered just right and played tricks on my eyes. The mind does weird things when it expects to see someone. I slid into the window seat and stared outside. But every time I looked into the window's reflection, I saw him again, sitting, facing me, always in the same position, always the same shape. And each time I turned to look directly at the seat, gone. I sat frozen for the next 15 minutes. Then, at the Harlem 125th Street stop, a group of 4 college-age kids boarded. They sat at the far end of the car, laughing and joking, and I felt some of the pressure lift. People brought normalcy, sanity. But when I glanced at the window reflection again, he was still there, despite the new passengers, despite the noise, despite the warmth of other voices. I didn't say anything. Who would I tell that I was seeing someone in a reflection who didn't exist? So I sat, watched, waited. Around Mama Ronek, the train emptied again. The kids got off, and I was alone in my row. And then I heard it, a low hum, barely audible, like a whisper too deep to make out. I looked at the reflection again. He hadn't moved, but now his head was slightly tilted toward me. I held my breath, turned to look. Empty seat, back to the window, he was closer, still seated, but now facing me. Head tilted slightly down, as if watching me through the top of his brow. I stood up, moved to another seat, 2 rows up, looked back. The seat was still empty, but the reflection still showed him. Same row, same angle. He didn't follow me in reality, only in reflections. Now the whispers were louder. Still unintelligible, but constant, like a radio tuned to a dead channel where something's just barely trying to speak. I took out my phone and aimed the camera at the seat across from me. Nothing. I flipped it to selfie mode, and there he was, plain as day, sitting across from me. Still, expressionless, staring. I tapped the shutter. The photo saved to my camera roll. I opened it. Empty, no figure, no shadow. Just me and an empty seat behind me. My skin crawled. I switched cars, sat next to the door. A conductor walked past me, checking tickets. I handed him mine. "Hey," I said. "Did you see anyone in the last car? Wearing a hoodie, dark clothes?" He glanced back. "No one's in that car. You were the only one I saw." "You didn't see anyone get off?" He shook his head. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just tired." He nodded and kept walking. I checked my reflection in the window beside me. Empty. I exhaled. Maybe he was gone. Maybe it was really just my brain playing tricks. But then I caught it. Just as the train passed under a series of street lamps, his shadow, in the seat next to mine. Not the shape of the seat, not mine, his. A second shadow, cast on the floor, unmoving. I looked next to me, nothing there, but the shadow remained. I stood up so fast I almost fell. Ran to the bathroom at the end of the car, locked the door, sat on the toilet lid and just breathed. Tried to calm down, but the lights flickered. The walls seemed to pulse slightly. I looked in the mirror above the sink. He was standing behind me, just behind my shoulder. Face featureless, not blurred, just absent, like it had been wiped clean. I turned. Nothing. When I looked back in the mirror, the glass had frosted over, and one word was drawn in it. Stay. I didn't wait. I unlocked the door, bolted back to the main car, and stayed standing by the doors for the rest of the ride. No reflections, no whispers, no shadows. When I got off at Larchmont, I ran home like a child chased by ghosts. I didn't tell anyone. I deleted the blank photo. I avoided trains for weeks. Eventually, it faded into memory. Something I could almost laugh at. Almost. Until this morning. I boarded the 8:07 a.m. into the city, crowded, loud, brightly lit. I took a window seat, glanced at my reflection in the glass. And there he was, same seat, same position, head tilted. Only now he was smiling. Story 2. I used to love public transit. Something about the rhythm of it, the sway of the train, the muted hum of strangers surrounding you, the anonymity, felt oddly peaceful, safe even, but not anymore. Not after that night on the Blue Line in Chicago. It was a Thursday in late November. I remember because the air had that damp, frozen quality that sinks into your bones, and the city looked like it had been dipped in dull steel. I'd been working late, prepping for a client meeting the next morning, and by the time I left the office, it was well past 10 p.m. Normally, I would have taken an Uber, but I'd been trying to save money, and the Blue Line was only a few blocks from my office. The station was mostly empty. Just the soft echo of footsteps disappearing down the far end of the platform. I pulled my coat tighter and checked the app. 6 minutes until the next inbound train. I remember shivering. Not from the cold exactly, more like a drop in pressure like the air shifted. But I brushed it off. The train finally arrived, screeching into the station like a tired animal. The doors hissed open. I stepped inside. It was surprisingly full for that hour. Not packed, but crowded. Every seat taken, people standing shoulder to shoulder in the aisles. A quiet car, no music, no chatter, just the occasional rustle of a bag or throat clearing. Everyone looked dull, passive, like wax figures someone had forgotten to animate. I squeezed into a spot near the back, between two tall men in identical black hoodies. They didn't glance at me, didn't move. As the train lurched forward, I settled into the silence, scrolling through my phone. That's when I felt it. The unmistakable sensation of being watched. You know how sometimes you can feel a pair of eyes on you? It's not just paranoia, it's primal, instinctual. You know when it's happening. I glanced up. No one was looking at me. Everyone's head was down, eyes glazed over, blank, except for one man. He was about 10 feet down the car, standing in the aisle. He wasn't staring at me exactly, more like he was staring through me, unblinking, expressionless. His eyes were wide, too wide. I blinked and looked away, then glanced back. He was gone. I scanned the train, nothing. Nowhere he could have gone without brushing past a dozen people. But there was no sign of him. My heart began to pound. I told myself I imagined it. Maybe I was tired, sleep-deprived. The train slowed, screeched, stopped. People got off, new passengers got on, the crowd shuffled. I stayed where I was. A woman sat across from me, young, maybe early 20s. She had earbuds in, face pale and tight. Her knees bounced nervously. I watched her for a moment. She looked up, and our eyes met. Hers widened. She mouthed something. I pulled out one of my earbuds. "What?" She leaned forward. "Do you feel it?" My stomach dropped. She whispered, "It's been following me since Western." Before I could answer, the train lights flickered, once, twice, then dimmed to a dull yellow. I looked down the car. The man was back, standing in the aisle again, same spot, still staring. Only this time his mouth was moving, silently. The other passengers didn't notice, didn't react. It was like they couldn't even see him. The girl across from me started shaking. "Don't acknowledge him," she said. "That's what he wants." "Who is he?" I whispered. She didn't answer. I looked back up. The man was gone again. The lights returned to normal. The hum of the train grew louder, like someone turned up the volume a notch. The girl clutched her bag and stood to get off at the next stop. As she passed me, she dropped a folded piece of paper in my lap. She didn't look back. I unfolded it. There was only one sentence written in jagged, frantic handwriting. "Once you see him, he sees you." I froze, and that's when I heard the whisper from right behind me. "You see me now." I shot to my feet and spun around, empty. The hooded men beside me hadn't moved. No one reacted. I bolted to the next car. It was darker, empty, except for a single man slumped in the corner. I kept walking. The next car was even darker, lights barely flickering, and colder. Much colder. I could see my breath now. There was no reason the train should be that cold. The windows began to frost. My phone dimmed, then powered off completely. Then, silence. Total silence. Even the sound of the train wheels disappeared. I stood there in the middle of the car and realized I was alone. No, not alone. I turned, and there he was at the other end of the car, not walking, gliding. His arms hung at his sides, his head tilted to the left like it was broken. His mouth moved without sound. I backed away. My voice wouldn't come. I slammed open the door to the next car. Passengers again, lights, sound. I gasped, but when I looked behind me, the door was shut. And through the tiny window I saw nothing, just blackness, like that car didn't exist anymore. I got off at the next stop and ran into the night air, nearly collapsing on the platform. A transit cop asked if I was okay. I told him everything. He looked confused. "We haven't had anyone on the Blue Line tonight fitting that description," he said. "You sure you weren't dreaming?" I showed him the note. It was blank, just a torn scrap of paper. The girl was gone. I checked every camera, asked about footage, nothing. I walked home. That was 6 months ago. I never ride the train anymore, but sometimes, when I'm alone, I feel it. That weight, that presence, like someone is watching me from inside my own head. Sometimes I see him in reflections, just for a second, always staring, always mouthing the same thing. "You see me now, and I know it's only a matter of time before he doesn't need the train anymore, before he's here." Story 3. I commute late. Not because I want to, but because my job demands it. I'm a night shift manager at a printing facility in Newark, and by the time I clock out and get to the station, it's well past 1 a.m. The trains are almost always empty by then. Just a car or two, with a few scattered souls, either too tired to speak or too strange to approach. I've always liked the quiet, the way the world empties out at night, the space to think. But now I hate it, because of what happened last November. I remember it was raining hard, cold slanted rain that slapped the platform and turned everything into a shimmering gray. I had forgotten my umbrella and was soaked by the time I got to the waiting area. The 1:32 a.m. train to Trenton was late, and there were only 2 other people on the platform. A guy in a hoodie slumped on a bench, and a woman pacing back and forth, whispering into a phone with her back turned. I didn't think much of them. Everyone's a little weird at that hour. When the train finally pulled in, it screeched louder than usual. The headlights cut through the rain like searchlights, and steam hissed from underneath the car as the doors opened. I stepped on. Empty. Every car ahead and behind me. Empty. Except for one man sitting all the way at the far end, facing away. I walked down the aisle and sat a few rows from the middle, far from the guy but not directly across. I pulled my hood up, leaned against the window, and closed my eyes. And that's when I heard it. Whispering. At first I thought it was someone's music leaking through their earbuds, but no one was near me. The man at the far end hadn't moved. I glanced around, still empty. The whispers were soft. Not words exactly, just sibilant hisses in the faint shape of language, like someone mumbling in a dream. It came from behind me. I turned quickly. Nothing. Just rows of seats. I tried to ignore it. Told myself it was the wind. Maybe the rain was seeping in somewhere, creating weird acoustics. I even took my phone out and recorded for a few seconds, hoping to catch the sound. Nothing on playback. I glanced at the man again, still sitting, still facing forward, but something about him unnerved me, the way he sat so still, so perfectly upright, not hunched or relaxed, just rigid. Then the train lights flickered, and in that moment of dimness I saw it. Not the man, someone, something else, a shadow. Behind me. I spun around again, too fast, my neck cracked. My eyes scanned the aisle, the windows, the doors. Nothing. But the whispering was louder now, closer, like it was brushing the back of my neck. I moved to another seat farther down the car, closer to the emergency door. That's when I noticed something else. The man at the far end. He hadn't moved at all, not even blinked. Not a twitch, not a shift, like a statue. I got up again and walked to the next car. It was completely empty, no people, no whispers, just the hum of the train and the rhythm of rain slapping against the glass. I sat down, exhaled, and closed my eyes again. Whoosh. I heard it again, whispering, but this time it came from the intercom speaker above me. Faint, murmured. I stood up and pressed my ear to the speaker. It stopped. Then came a sound from behind me. the seat creaking. I turned slowly. The man was in the same car now. How? I had changed cars. He would have had to pass me, and I never saw him move. But there he was, still sitting stiffly, still facing forward, except now. He was smiling, barely, just a tight, unnatural pull at the corners of his mouth. I backed away, tried not to look. My hands shook as I pressed the emergency call button. Nothing happened. The lights dimmed again, and this time the whispers came from everywhere. They weren't words anymore. They were layered voices, dozens of them, some laughing, some crying, some just breathing. Then the overhead lights flashed on full blast, and everything stopped. The man was gone. I stood there alone in the car, breathing hard, heart racing. The conductor's voice crackled over the intercom. Next stop, New Brunswick. I bolted for the door and got off the train. I called an Uber from the platform, shaking the whole time. I couldn't even explain what happened. I tried to, but I sounded insane. There was a man. He moved without moving. He whispered through the speakers. The driver barely said a word. When I got home, I went straight to my laptop and pulled up the train schedule. I checked the car numbers. I tried to find a contact for security footage, but there's no public access to New Jersey transit surveillance. I eventually fell asleep at my desk. The next morning, I checked my phone. There was a voice memo, timestamp 1:42 a.m., length 18 seconds. I don't remember recording it. I played it. Whispers, not mine, not words, just voices layered, echoing, like a crowd pressed against the walls of reality. And one voice, at the end, clear as day. Don't leave next time. I deleted the file. I stopped riding the train for weeks, started borrowing my friend's car, started driving, even changed shifts. But one night, I had no choice. My car battery died. My friend was out of town, so I took the train again. Late, rainy, same route. Same time, 1:32 a.m. I stepped on with my hood pulled low, eyes on the floor. Empty, completely empty, no conductor, no passengers. I sat by the emergency door, gripping my phone, ready to run. The lights dimmed. Whispers, and then something sat beside me. I didn't turn, I couldn't. It breathed slowly, steadily. The window beside me fogged up from its breath. And then, in the condensation, a single word appeared, traced from the inside. Stay. I ran, and I haven't taken a train since. Late-night trains are meant to carry us home, but for some, they become the start of something unexplainable. So now I ask you, have you ever experienced something on a train, or anywhere, that left you questioning reality? Share your story in the comments below. You're not alone, and your experience might just become our next tale. If you enjoy true, terrifying stories like these, don't forget to like, subscribe to Mr. Darkveil, and ring the bell so you never miss the next haunting journey. Until then, keep your eyes open on your next commute. Not everything that rides with you has a ticket.